Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are discussing Tarleton State University's newest doctoral program in experimental psychology. And I'm joined today by Dr. Logan Yelderman, who serves as faculty coordinator for the program. As he is going through his presentation, if you do have questions, we ask that you submit those using the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will handle those at the end of the presentation. But for now, I will just turn things over to Dr. Yelderman.
All right, thank you. Well, thanks for letting me come in and kind of talk about this. So, this is our new doctoral degree in experimental psychology. It actually just started. We took our first cohort this fall of 2025. And so, this degree is housed in the Department of Psychological Sciences, which is part of the college education here at Tarleton. And so I'm going to kind of go over some degree requirements, some of the admission stuff kind of throughout this presentation. So first, a lot of people ask, what is experimental psychology? And you can kind of think of it as in two ways. One, people consider it a branch of its own psychology, but really it's more of an approach to psychology. And so here is this kind of definition: the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes, which if we just stopped there, the study of human behavior and mental processes is kind of the definition of general psychology. And so what the second part of this definition is really what we emphasize here in our program, which is through the use of experimental methods in controlled lab settings and applied settings. So through the use of these controlled experiments, we investigate various psychological phenomena and processes. And so that's really what's at the heart of this program. There's not a typical subfield that we cover. It's more of an approach to understanding psychology more generally. And what we study here what we focus on here in our program is really driven by faculty interest and student interest. So there's kind of two major processes that we use for the application process, and so I kind of broke up the admission requirements into these two separate steps. And I'll go through the requirements first, and then I'll talk a little bit about the steps. So the first is there's an application process through the Office of Graduate Studies. So there's an application that's filled out there. They require a personal statement which just kind of addresses, what your goals are, and then the official transcripts of all the universities you've attended. And what we're really looking for is someone who's got a background, either a bachelor's or master's degree, because we do offer admission straight from the bachelor's degree in psychology or a closely related field. And this is to prepare students kind of with the best background to be successful in our program. And then the second one, kind of set of admission requirements, is through the department. And so those, we require a 3.0 GPA cumulative or higher. And there are some things that can be done if an applicant does not have that 3.0 minimum. And so there can be a GRE score as kind of a supplemental bit of information to submit with that. That can be done. And the best thing to do is if there's any questions during, when it comes to GPA and qualifications for application processes, of course, just to reach out to me and let me know what questions someone has, and I can definitely answer them. But this is one way we can look into someone who applies but doesn't quite meet the minimum for the GPA. We also require 3 letters of recommendation, and these letters are usually written by faculty or mentors in the academic kind of career of the student up to that point that would lend insights and information into the skills and abilities that a student or an applicant might have that is related to the likelihood of success in a doctoral program. And then we also require a detailed CV. So this is a curriculum vitae or a resume. We call it CV, but some people call it resume. But this is as detailed as possible to kind of let us know what the student has done, what they've studied, what kind of experience they have in research, if any, and then any kind of related field work experience as well. And then we also require a statement of purpose. And this is a little bit different from the one that the Office of Graduate Studies requires. This one is going to be specific to describing the student's kind of journey that led them to look into our program and want to pursue a PhD in experimental psychology. And also in this one, we're looking for students to identify the type of research they want to do and which faculty they want to be their faculty mentor, because this program is a very hands-on mentor led experience. And so each student will be matched up with a mentor and kind of have a one-on-one mentorship throughout the program. And so part of the admission process is looking for good fit between applicants and their identified mentors. And then lastly, if there's any need for the proof of English proficiency, then that would be requested at that point. So the program, okay, so before I get into the program details, I did want to mention those two different steps we just went over. There's an application that's submitted to the Office of Graduate Studies. Once that is received, that information would actually come to me, and then I reach out to the student with a link to submit the second set of application criteria. And so it's kind of a two-step process. So the requirements at both levels are done in kind of two steps. So. The program is a face-to-face, so all in-person program because it is a very uh, it's pretty intense research program, and so there's a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of meetings between faculty mentors and students, and so this really is best served through a very on-campus, heavy presence on campus type of program delivery. This is currently only offered at the Stephenville campus, and what that means is all the courses and resources are provided through the Stephenville campus. And so we do have faculty who are at other campuses that do work with doctoral students and mentor doctoral students. And so they may meet with their students at other campuses and things like that. But the program is offered through, and then enrollment is through the Stephenville campus. Our students who enroll in our program, they are enrolled to start December, I'm sorry, not December, in the fall of each year. So we don't look to admit students to enroll starting in the summer or starting in the spring. Now, there may be times where that is they're an exceptional case, but for kind of the rule that we go by is to start each fall so that each cohort is together because usually each cohort is going to have several students, and in the doctoral program experience, people's cohort members are kind of the ones who they progress through the program with, and so we want that to be kind of a regular starting time so that those cohorts are close and cohesive throughout the process and throughout the program. So it's a fall start for every group of students. The application deadline is December 1st, and so we would look to have the initial application submitted. This is to the Office of Graduate Studies by December 1st. And then once that's submitted, as long as it's by December 1st, then the second kind of step of the application process would follow shortly. But this is primarily for the application to the Office of Graduate Studies by December 1st. So the way the program works is there's a kind of a couple things going on all at once. You have specific curriculum, so this is going to be the actual in-classroom courses that students take. We also have the research kind of coursework, and then we have major milestones. And so the overall program from start to finish, if coming from a bachelor's program, is a 66-hour degree program. And so you see here, there's 27 hours of coursework. So there are 15 hours at the 5,000 level and 12 hours at the 6,000 level. And so this is a program that's got curriculum and coursework from both 5 and 6,000 level courses. There's 9 hours of what's called pre-doctoral research and 12 hours of doctoral research. And these two I'm going to expand on a little bit later, but these are hours credited for supervised research. And so this is where that research intensive component comes in, that a lot of the coursework is hands-on experience conducting research, collecting data, analyzing data, and things like that. And then there are 18 hours of thesis and dissertation. And so this is where the hours are dedicated to the student's contribution to their thesis project and their dissertation project. And so this estimated time of the 66 hours would be somewhere between 4 and 5 years, depending on how well students progress through some of the major milestones and specifically through the thesis and dissertation steps. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a research intensive program. And so that predoctoral research and the doctoral research, those are those are going to be hours that capture students' time committed to and dedicated to independent research projects, usually with their mentor or collaborative research projects with their mentor, with other people as well. And so this is really where instead of sitting in a class and listening to lectures, this is where students spend time in a lab collecting data, analyzing data, developing research materials, things like that. And so there's a lot of time throughout the program dedicated to conducting research studies, engaging in experiments, kind of learning and engaging in the controlled, lab experiments that really, I think, are kind of the hallmarks of our experimental psychology program. And so with this, this is going to be projects outside of the thesis and dissertation, and even projects outside of the major milestones, which I'll go over in a second. And so this is, again, just to kind of show that there's a lot of hours dedicated to the specific goal of getting hands-on experience conducting research and really building the research portfolio of the students, but also building the skills and the abilities of students so that when they graduate, they have a lot of a lot of time spent engaging in that research. So I'll say research a lot in this webinar because that really is what is at the heart of this PhD in experimental psychology. Okay, so the four major milestones in our program. And so this is kind of assuming there is a 4-year basic, timeline that a student would be in the program. The dissertation is kind of what sometimes can extend to a little bit longer than the 4th year, so fourth and into the 5th year. But the first year students complete what's called the first year project. And this project is an experimental research study that they conduct usually alongside or really under the mentorship and guidance of their research supervisor, the research advisor. And this is a project that at the end of the year, we have kind of a brown bag colloquium that all first year students will present in. So this is kind of a showcase of the first year projects. And there's also a report that they'll turn in, but really this is just to get students from the very beginning of the program immersed in the experimental design and the research process and leading to basically a symposium style presentation of these research projects at the end. So this is really fast-paced, but it's a lot of fun because students get to see from start to finish an entire research project. Thesis is the next major milestone, usually completed by the end of the 2nd year. And this is kind of the student's first independent major research project. Again, this is kind of going to be an experimental research project. And this has the formal proposal and defense. So what that means is that students basically create a research project proposal, and then they'll defend their proposal idea to their committee. And then after that, as long as it gets approved to kind of continue on, the student will then conduct the research they proposed, and then they'll provide what's called a final defense. And this final defense is where, after they collect the data, analyze the results, they'll kind of defend the final, project in its entirety to the committee, and which we'll see happen again in the dissertation. But the thesis is kind of the first time that the students do that formal proposal and final defense process with an independent student-led research project. And then the third major milestone, typically done in the 3rd year. So again, this is kind of going 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year. Typically done in the 3rd year, is a little different. So this deviates a little bit from the 1st year project, the thesis and dissertation, because rather than really focusing on being an experiment necessarily, this is going to be where students kind of take a bird's eye view on a particular topic and really grasp a larger idea that's present in psychology in the area of research interest of the student, and identify that problem or that big idea and engage in a project that's a little more, that's got a little more breadth to it. And so this is done typically in the form of a document that does have an evaluation aspect to it, but a document that's going to resemble something along the lines of a systematic review. So this isn't just a literature review, but more of a broad kind of um, introspective review on the field itself, kind of from the perspective of the student. This can also be a grant proposal, and this can also be, or at least a project that leads to a grant proposal. And this can also be something like a meta-analysis as well. But the goal here is that there is kind of a way in which a student can engage with big picture thinking and big ideas that would lead to an output or a product similar to a systematic review article, a grant proposal, or a meta-analysis article as well. And so the last year, so the fourth year, again, this is all just assuming that the timeline kind of flows perfectly, but the dissertation is really the um, last major milestone in the program. And so this again follows the same format as the thesis, but this is going to be an experimental research study that the student basically kind of from start to finish does all on their own under the guidance of their mentor, their research advisor. I use those terms interchangeably, they mean the same person. But this is really a kind of a large project that really showcases the students' skills and abilities that they have developed and learned throughout the process in the program. And so this follows the formal proposal and defense kind of systematic procedure as well, just like the thesis. And so that's the, four major milestones we have in the program, and all four of those are to be completed. There are times where we will kind of we can in our program accept uh, transfer credits and the thesis project as well, so people can transfer in thesis. So if that's the case, then the timelines will look and the milestone order will look a little different, because if someone has completed a thesis prior to starting the doctoral program, then the thesis requirement would be fulfilled, but they would still need to do the first year project, prelim examination, and then also the dissertation. So that's the only milestone that's possible. It's possible to have previously done prior to coming into the program. So the core courses in our program, there's not that many, but there's primary courses are going to be related to statistics and methods for the most part. So we have advanced quantitative methods in experimental design. This is a 5,000 level course, and this is really getting students into graduate level statistics and methods. And then we have statistical modeling for experimental psychology, and this is going to be a little bit more advanced graduate level statistics course as well. We have a pro seminar in experimental psychology, and this is really kind of the course where students learn about the PhD in experimental psychology. This is where students kind of get oriented with the program, and a lot of topics that are covered in this class are dedicated to research productivity, the graduate student role, research ethics, things like that. So a lot of professional development topics will be covered in that class. And then the applied experimental psychology will be the first two on that list are 5,000 level courses. The second two are 6,000 level courses. So this will be the doctoral experimental psychology methods course. And it'll involve methods and statistics, but it'll be very much a focus on the experimental design in those two areas. And then there are a number of electives. So I did not list them all here, but there are 5,000 level electives that are required for the student to take. And there are too many to list here, but you can definitely find those either on the website. Those are also the same electives that we offer in the Masters of Science and Applied Psychology program that we have. But specific to the doctoral program, the electives that we offer are social psychology, cognitive psychology, neuroscience and behavior. And that one I put an asterisk there because that's actually going to be offered through the Department of Neuroscience, but we try to team up with them. And sometimes we offer that class if it's available for them to teach, and then also if it is one of the courses that our students want to take. Then we have quantitative psychology. So again, going to be an upper level and advanced statistics class, and then developmental psychology and industrial organizational psychology. And so there may be other classes that are offered here and there, but those are the primary electives that we plan to offer in this program. Some of the faculty that we have currently, so we have lots of really strong research active faculty in our program that use experimental methods across a number of different domains in psychology or kind of areas or sub areas of psychology. And so here are a couple of the uh, descriptions of kind of what our faculty are currently studying. And so you have statistical modeling of human cognitive abilities. We have group dynamics and organizational behavior. We have numerical cognition and mathematical psychology with the emphasis of Bayesian statistics. We have a couple people who research memory, so memory, emotion, and metacognition, and also eyewitness memory and identification, and then social psychology, law, and religion. And so these are kind of broader. So I would encourage anyone who's wanting to know what these things mean to go to well, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can try to find information maybe on the website of the with the faculty in the psychological sciences department, or two, you can always email a faculty member and ask them what they're currently working on, because sometimes research interests and the current projects faculty are working on overlap quite a bit. Sometimes they, not so much. And so it's always good to just reach out and ask a faculty member who you might be interested in working with what they're currently working on and what their research interests are, because that's going to be the most up to date, and accurate information you can get is directly from the faculty. But these are the topics that our faculty are currently studying for in our program I'd say probably within the last semester or two. So, okay, so another question I think it's always asked. That's I think is a good question to ask if you're going to start a program, especially one that's going to be as demanding as the PhD in experimental psychology. Is what are some of the jobs that I can get with that degree, or what are some of the the ways I can take my career with a degree like that? And our program is going to provide, I think, students and graduates with a really good skill set and knowledge base to go kind of a couple different ways. One, you can go into academic or academia in a number of ways. So you can be a faculty, you can do instruction, you can do teaching, you can also do research. You could be a tenure track faculty, you could be a professional track faculty, you could be an academic researcher, so like a research scientist within a maybe a some sort of organization within a university or some sort of, kind of department lab, something along those lines. So you could be a faculty member or a researcher. You could also be a statistician. So whether it's a biostatistician or a behavioral data scientist, someone who basically works with human data. You can be a human factors engineer or a user experience designer or researcher. There's a lot of companies that'll hire people with research in social sciences degrees, doctoral degrees, who are really well trained in research practices and especially in experimental designs that they'll hire from those programs for big name media companies, social media companies, app companies, things like that. And so there's quite a bit of pipeline from some of these programs like ours to user experience. And then market research analyst or any type of job that would require research and analyzing data. That really is kind of where our program will provide strengths to someone who graduates from it looking for a career. We provide our students with assistantships. And so these um, are provided as long as we can provide them, but these are typically teaching assistantships. So usually students will come in and they will teach classes on their own independently if as long as they have the required number of graduate hours to be able to do that. Sometimes students will come in on research assistantships, but this is not as common as the teaching assistantships, and the research assistantships are usually going to be specific to Research assistantships that are associated with grants that faculty have acquired. So most of our students come in and we look to put them in the classroom under a teaching assistantship at the beginning. And so they'll teach classes that they, have qualifications to teach or are comfortable teaching. But we try to get students in the classroom just to get them that teaching experience. Really, that's kind of one of the things we focus on in developing our students is teaching to help with presentation and those kinds of skills. And so those are the major kind of topics of the degree that I wanted to kind of go over. And I do have, like I mentioned, I do have some questions that I can kind of pose, but first I'd love to get all the questions from anyone else and any kind of prepared questions and address those first.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gelderman. This has been so helpful. And I want to ask our live audience members, if you do have questions of your own, please go ahead and submit those on using the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will handle those shortly. Dr. Gelderman, you mentioned that you have some commonly asked questions that you wanted to address. I have a few questions of my own. Maybe they're very similar to what you had prepared to speak to, but you mentioned
Okay.
the cohort program. And so I was wondering, is there a target number of students you're hoping to bring in each fall?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good question. I think so the best answer I can give is how many we have currently. So we have one cohort in currently, and it's a cohort of 6. Um, we we are looking to have a cohorts of 5 to 10, I think is kind of what our target number would be. We want to take in students, we want to train students. We think we have a really great program, and so we'd love to take in as many as we can as terms of capacity goes. But at the same time, we also this is a very uh, like I said, demanding program, an intensive program, and so there are going to be candidates that are much more competitive. And so, we have to look at the type of candidates we receive in any kind of application process. But yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good 5 to 10 is a pretty safe range of about what we're looking to take in a cohort.
Yes. And you'd mentioned that mentorship by the faculty is an important piece of this. What advice would you give to someone about how to identify a faculty member who aligns with their own interest? And if there are not any faculty members who clearly fit into what a prospective student would want to do, does that mean that they can't be or wouldn't be admitted into the program?
Yeah, good question. So I'll address both. I'll do it in the order you asked, I think. Um, so the best way to really connect with a faculty mentor is going to be prior to the application process. I think the first step is just see if you can find that information, what the faculty interests are. We do have information posted on the website. I think even have a link to the handbook, or that this should be, and that even has a little bit about, a little bit about the faculty. But I would so read kind of the descriptions on the website, and then I would actually contact the faculty. We are not too busy, and we are not uh, annoyed at all if if a prospective student wants to contact us and ask us about our research to see if that's a good fit. In fact, we really encourage that as graduate faculty in this program. We really encourage that because the mentorship aspect of this program is absolutely critical. So you really want to find good fit between a student and a faculty mentor. So if that means having an email conversation or a phone conversation, I think that's the best way to go. So I think for a prospective student, I would email them and then try to set up maybe a Zoom or a phone call and see if you can ask a bunch of questions to see if your research interests align with the faculty members' research interests. And that does two things really. One, it gets your questions answered, but then it also allows you as a prospective applicant and the faculty to get to know each other a little bit, And so you get a little familiarity. So not just with the words on the page of what the faculty interests are, but you get a little bit of feel for things like, where someone's headed, where the career goals are, those kinds of things too. And you can have just a much richer conversation and find out a whole lot more about that alignment and about those mentorship aspects. Because one thing, if you're a student looking for a mentor, there's more to it than just research interests. There's other things that are going to play a major role in how well you click with somebody and how well you are able to connect and if their mentorship style is going to be good for you. And I think that's a really important question to ask is what is your mentorship style? Because that sometimes will be really helpful in making a decision about applications. The
Yes.
second part that you asked, I think, is what happens if there's not alignment between students and faculty. And I think that's a question that's got an answer that is important, but may not be the easiest to hear. And that is, if there's just no overlap, then it's really hard for a faculty member to supervise a student if that student wants to research things and study things that are outside the faculty's abilities or familiarity or expertise. And also, it's hard for the student to get the resources they need to study the topics they really want to study if there aren't faculty who can help guide them on that. So you really, if you're interested in this program, it's because you really want to study experimental psychology and you want these skills and you want what the program offers. And also, you have an alignment with faculty in the program. So that way you can be trained by experts in those areas so that you can gain the best, set of skills and knowledge base that you can on that topic and on that area of interest.
Thank you. You mentioned that this is an in-person program that's based at our main campus in Stephenville. What time of day are the courses offered, and is there an expectation that students would be enrolled full time?
Yes, they're good questions. So so yes. So first of all, there is an expectation that students are going to be enrolled in first time. Also, because we provide assistantships for students, there's also an expectation that students are not going to have outside work because we are providing an assistantship so that the student can really focus those amount of years to the what the program has to offer and commitment to the program as well. The courses currently are Tuesdays and Thursday courses, and they are kind of morning to afternoon courses. So these aren't night courses. We don't plan to offer night courses or evening courses. And we also Students typically will take 6 hours. That's considered full time, potentially even 9 hours in some cases, but usually it's going to be 6 hours of coursework, and then maybe additional hours of supervised research, something like that. And so uh, classes are mostly structured in 3-hour formats. So each class meets once a week for 3 hours. So if you have two courses that you're taking, that'd be your 6 hours that you're taking. You'd basically meet one class would meet one day for 3 hours, and the other class would meet some day for 3 hours as well. So I think our current schedule, for example, is students are taking a class, I think Tuesday morning, and then they have a class Thursday afternoon. And so that would be so outside of that, kind of the normal work hours we would expect students to do would be engaging in that research and the milestones. And so even though you're in courses for those time, you're kind of expected to keep pretty normal hours and put in a very full-time demanding schedule based on kind of what will be required to progress throughout the program.
And so you mentioned the assistantships. Are those guaranteed for each cohort member, or is it a competitive process?
No, so they are provided to students who are accepted into the program. Um, I don't like to use any word like guaranteed or certainty or things like that, just because there's so many things that can impact it. But they're not a student would not be admitted into the program and then be required then to apply for the assistantship and compete with someone else. If a student's admitted to the program, we are planning to provide an assistantship for that student to be able to be in the program. Yes. So it's upon admission, not upon application and competition.
You mentioned letters of recommendation are part of the application process. How many
Yes.
we need, and ideally, who might be a good source to write those letters?
Yeah, so three are required. Ideally, it would be um, because this is a research program. So I'm going to make some assumptions here. Assuming that the student would have any kind of research experience, then ideally that those letters would come from whoever their research advisor is in their master's program or in their undergraduate program. Faculty would be the best just because this is an academic program. So anyone who can speak to the academic skills and abilities of a student or of an applicant would be best. And so those would be kind of the ideal letters. Someone who's got direct experience supervising their research, development, and then also someone who's got direct experience supervising them as a student in the academic environment.
Very good. You'd mentioned that the application deadline is December 1st for the following fall, and that's
Mhm.
their application to the College of Graduate Studies. And then comes phase two, which is program specific. Can you talk more about what happens in that second phase and when might a student receive their decision and know whether or not they've been admitted?
Yeah. So the uh, the College of Graduate Studies should receive their first application by December 1st. And then what we would do, so once they receive it, they forward that to me. And once I get the email, I basically that same day, probably within, the hour, I'll turn around and send that student an email with a link to the department specific application. That application then I'll be constantly in contact with the student until that application is completed to be sure I know if the application is going to be completed or if it's going to be abandoned, and then kind of the expectation that the students get basically to complete that within the week. So students by the time they apply should have all that information quick right there at the fingertips. And so as soon as I send them that link, they should be able to quickly upload that and turn that around in a couple days. So we'd expect that to be done in about a week. There's of course flexibility there, but too long left untouched, then they would basically be self-selecting out of the application process. Uh, as far as decision goes, we hope to conduct. So once the application is submitted, we do plan on conducting interviews with applicants. So that's one thing I did forget to say, but we do plan on conducting interviews with applicants, and we expect those because it's a decision for first deadline. Those are probably going to happen after the Christmas break. So we'd be looking to do those, January, February-ish, and so then at that point in time, decisions would be made probably shortly after that. So a few weeks after the um, interviews have all been conducted and concluded. And so that's kind of the turnaround time that we're expecting. It may differ depending on the cohorts, depending on how fast students are able to schedule interviews and things like that. So that's always going to impact it. But for the most part, early spring is when we hope to complete the interviews and hopefully reach out to them within weeks after that.
Very good. So you had mentioned, and I find it so interesting that this is a program that someone with just the bachelor's degree could enter. But for those who already have a master's degree and have done a master's thesis, would they be doing their dissertation on a separate research topic or just continuing what they've done with their master's
Yeah,
thesis?
no, that's a good question. So a couple things I want to kind of mention. We're open to admitting, so it means you are still eligible to be admitted into the program if you do not have a master's, but you've completed a bachelor's, or expected to by the time the application would be, or by the time you'd start. So that being said, a master's degree could give us an applicant more research experience and things like that. So there's competitive aspects to it, there. However, it's not a master's degree is just not required for application to our program, in admission to our program. Um, as far as what students would work on, so they can choose to continue and pursue work related to their master's degree. In order for a master's degree to be accepted by our program to fulfill our master's um, uh, milestone, our thesis milestone. So sorry, I should say the thesis. If for the thesis to be accepted, it would have to be up to the standards and the rigor that we would expect, and it'd have to be an experimental project. So we would be looking for some very specific requirements. And so students basically have the first semester that they start. They have that first semester until the last day of the semester to submit a petition for any kind of coursework they want transferred, and that would include a master's thesis. However, the standards are pretty strict on that. And so just because someone has completed a thesis does not mean it's going to transfer over. So it would need to fit the guidelines of what we have for our thesis requirements. So a rigorous experimental design would be what we're looking for. The other kind of thing I want to mention in terms of the kind of progress and what people do, any milestone or any project that you use for one of the major milestones can't simply be reused for another one. So a first year project and a master's thesis, and those can build on each other, it's just like with classes, you can't submit one paper for one class for another class, or the same thing. So they're four separate projects, but they can definitely have a theme throughout them, such as like a topic of interest, a particular outcome variable they're kind of focusing on. They're systematically evaluating and investigating some things that might predict or be related to that outcome variable. But overall, the goal is to allow students to kind of tailor their projects to the type of CV and resume they want when they graduate from the program. That's going to put them in the best position to get whatever job they're looking to get. And so our mentors and our advisors and myself will help students with developing that research agenda throughout their career in this program.
And you mentioned that to be eligible for admission, someone needs to have a bachelor's or previous degrees in psychology or some related discipline. So what might some of those other related disciplines be?
Yeah. So mostly social sciences. So if a degree is in some aspect of social sciences or even biological sciences, I think those would be pretty relevant and those would be pretty closely related. We also do have a numerical and mathematical psychology faculty who to study those kinds of things. So there may be some that they're wanting to work more in numerical cognition or mathematical psychology. And so they kind of have more of a STEM mathematics type of background or something along those lines. But that'd be kind of what we're looking for. So social sciences or some closely related field uh, to what is done in the program under the mentorship of a research advisor. Those would be considered. I don't want to say that there are specific degrees that would be always included or always excluded. Probably there's a few that are like sociology is very similar. Criminal justice or criminology would be kind of similar. Political science maybe even as well. Biology, neuroscience. Those would be all closely related fields. So
I think that's helpful for people to hear, please.
yeah.
All right, well, those are all the questions I had, and I don't see any from our live audience. Is there anything else you wanted to expand on, Dr. Gelderman?
Let me see if I have some of my questions that I was going to kind of bring up. Because you asked really good questions, and so I may not have any additional ones. Um, okay, so let's see here.
And while you're looking for those, I do want to remind our live audience members that a recording of this webinar will be available to review on demand on the College of Graduate Studies YouTube channel. So please feel free to go back and review as needed. And if you know of others who might be a good fit for this particular graduate program, we hope you will share the recording with them as well.
Okay, so a couple questions I think are pretty relevant here is what are some of the um, outcomes or products that the program really kind of helps focus on for students that'll build their CV? And so with this program, like many PhD programs, we really focus on getting students not just uh, experience in the conducting the research, but we also really want our students to get experience in presenting research. And so we really encourage and try to provide opportunities for our students to present their research at conferences, And these conferences can be in the topics of, their research area. And then we also have a conference. We have what's called SWAP, or the Southwestern Psychological Association Conference, that Tarleton's very active in, and so we help our students and prepare them to present at that conference each year. But we really also want them presenting at other conferences, so we try to give them the resource, the opportunities and whatever resources we can, the opportunities and the training to be able to present at research conferences. We also focus on publication. So a lot of our mentors always will kind of be talking with their students that they're advising about how to get a project from start all the way to the publication process. So we're really focusing on the outcomes of research projects going beyond just, okay, you've completed it. And so our faculty here are really focused on building the CV of the student through opportunities to publish, opportunities to present, and then also guidance in grant writing whenever that's applicable. I think that's a pretty important one to say, that we have a very encouraging and supportive faculty for students who really want to engage in research with the goal in mind of contributing to the greater scientific community through communicating their own research via publication and presentation. And then also, our program is, we have a very close faculty and collaborative faculty, and so students in our program will get collaborative opportunities as well. And so I think that's something that is good about our program. I know other programs, I'm sure, have that, but I think that the faculty here, we all just really are pretty collaborative in spirit and nature. And so if students are really wanting to engage in research, maybe with a couple different faculty, then those opportunities might actually be easier in our program than maybe in some other programs, just because our faculty are very good with working with each other. And so I think those are the only things that we didn't already cover. So that was
Yeah,
pretty easy.
very, very good. Good to know. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Yilderman, for your time today. I'm excited to see where this program goes, and
Yeah.
best of luck to your first cohort. We're looking forward to them paving the path for the other students who will come behind them. Thank you to our live audience members, and I think, not seeing any other questions, we can end our webinar. So
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
welcome. Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right.